Good morning, lovely ladies of the Goddess Ascension group, and anybody else who's watching this live later on, because I'm going to share it in a few different places. Good morning on this gorgeous, gorgeous sunny day in June. How are we all doing today? I hope that you're all happy and enjoying the sunshine and out and about. And I'm here to share with you a little bit about why I'm offering this program around conscious communication. And I'm realizing, or I have been realizing this morning as I've been getting ready to come on and talk to you all, that this is actually, there's a lot of emotion for me around this topic. There's a lot of emotion that I'm holding. And I think when I try to tap into like what that emotion is, it's the sadness that I feel for all of us that no one taught us how to do this. No one taught us how to do conscious communication. For those of you who are wondering what I mean when I say conscious communication, I literally mean speaking your truth, saying how you really feel, acknowledging when you've had an activation around something, letting others see your process, whatever process you might be in as you're trying to work through something, expressing your boundaries, making requests, expressing desires, expressing the different parts of yourself that get activated. These are all different elements of conscious communication. And I think there's an emotion running through me this morning as I'm talking about this, because imagine when we were small children, if we had been guided as to how to do that, how to express what was really going on for us. Imagine if our parents had the wisdom to know how to cherish and hold and honor for us every emotion that came up. We wouldn't have had to learn all of these techniques and devices to hide what we're really feeling or to suppress what we really want to say. So for those of us who are doing this inner work now, we're coming back to undoing all of the programming that was unconsciously passed on to us in those early years, but which is not working for us now, right? If you're with me, it would be lovely if you wanted to say good morning. I would really appreciate that. Yeah, this is quite a deep one for me this morning. I'm going to probably cry as I attempt to share what I want to share. But the reason why I'm so passionate about sharing what I now know about how to practice conscious communication is because of all of the years of my life where I didn't know how to do it. I've always been somebody who's been deeply sensitive. So I've always been somebody who has felt my emotions very keenly. And sometimes, you know, for those of you who are also sensitive, that's really hard because we've been very much conditioned to choke them back down, not let people see and not share how we're really feeling, not articulate how we're really feeling. So to begin to learn how to do this requires a huge amount of emotional de-armoring. It requires a huge amount of courage to start to shift the way we communicate with others, what is really going on for us. You know, it's not easy. We've had decades of conditioning by now and modeling of other people around us showing us that we don't do that. We don't talk about those things. We don't express those things. We just pretend that everything's okay. Or we journal about it in the privacy of our own bedroom, but then we present the facade back to the person or the people that we actually want to have these conversations with. And it's affecting our relationships more than we know. There are ways to do this that get to completely transform the quality of the relationships and the intimacy that we can share with other people. And when I think back over my life, the years of triggering and activations that I had with my mother that were like next level. Like I hated her during my teenage years and into my 20s. Like there was so much anger and resentment and hate there from all these different patterns that had played out between us over the years that felt so sticky. And one of the biggest transformational things that I've done in my life is I have transformed that relationship with my mother from the inside out. And so now when we communicate, even when little things do come up, we expose them, we share them with each other, we ask each other if there's something that's coming up. We don't hide it anymore. And because I've done so much inner work and she's done so much inner work, we each now know how to not project the blame out, and equally not to project any blame in, like to take blame off the table completely and just be like, this is what's coming up for me, what's coming up for you. And doing this conscious communication, initially it's wobbly. I'm not gonna lie, it's wobbly. But as you build your own stamina for trying again with people that you love and you care about in time, it really does transform our relationships. And I'm passionate about it because I really desire for as many people as possible to learn these tools. They're not complicated tools, they're quite simple tools. But the reason that I've called the program The Art of Conscious Communication is because it is an art to use those tools skillfully, right? If I think back to the friendships that I've lost because either I didn't know or they didn't know how to express some kind of deep trigger that was coming up, and so blame was used or attack was used or distancing was used as a technique to circumvent having to look at what was really going on. If I look at the people who have meant so much to me in my life, and there are a couple that spring to mind now as I'm talking that have just disappeared out of my life because we didn't know how to do it. And I wish that I'd known, and I wish that they'd known, because the conscious communication is the bridge. It's the bridge between my inner world and your inner world, or your inner world and that person's inner world, so that you can work stuff out together instead of an explosive breaking apart because the toolkit wasn't available for how to process the things that come up, how to ask for what you desire instead of criticizing and finding fault with the other person because they're not meeting our expectations. It's learning the vulnerability in a way of how to say, this is what I desire. Are you available for it? Can you give this? So on the conscious communication program, I'm going to really do a deep dive with you if you feel the desire to be part of this conversation, to look at, there's about 18 different key teaching points that I want to cover with you, but they include things like how to voice to the other person for the parts. When I talk about the parts, I mean, although we may look like one person, one human, there are many different facets of who we are, archetypes running us from behind the scenes a lot of the time, especially when it comes to our emotional world. right? There's the inner child, the wounded child. There's the teenager, the angry teenager. There's the controller. There's the perfectionist. There are all these different archetypes that show up in our relationships with others and can lead to misunderstandings, conflict, triggers, etc. So I'm going to look with you at the archetypes and help you to voice to other people. First of all, to identify yourself, which archetype has shown up for you when there's an emotional trigger. And then secondly, how to share with others which archetypes come up so that they know who or which part of you they are dealing with. That in itself is a massive, massive game changer. We're going to look at how to voice for the void, which is also a really, really significant part of the conscious communication work, is how to express to somebody that you're in a process and you need a bit of time to work through whatever it is you're working through, but you haven't abandoned them. Because so often when we're working through something with somebody, we just disconnect from them. We stop talking to them, we stop engaging with them, and we don't tell them. We don't reassure them that we're in a process, but we're going to come out the other side of that process. And at some point, we're going to be ready to share whatever we've excavated internally with them so that we can come back into communication. So I'm going to work with you on how to voice for the void, how to voice for what's not being said. We're going to look at how to claim the shadow aspects of ourselves and let other people see them. What happens when we compare ourselves to others? How do we share with the other person that we've gone into some comparison stories around them? When jealousy comes up, how do we voice with the other person that jealousy's come up? When insecurity comes up, when anger comes up. Conscious communication is about making all of these different emotions that come through welcome, instead of demonizing them or hiding them or making the other person responsible for them. So I'm going to show you a new way to really own your shadows in your intimate relationships in a way that creates more intimacy, more love, more romance if it's a romantic relationship than you could imagine is possible if you haven't ever yet had the toolkit to know how to share from that place. But it can create the most phenomenal intimacy. It's sexy, you know, to share how you're really feeling. It's attractive, you know. People, we're all nosy bastards at the end of the day. We want to know what's going on for other people. But what we don't want is we don't want to feel blamed. As soon as somebody feels blamed, they completely contract and they're not available for conscious communication. So the inner work is, how do we approach the conscious communication without putting blame on the table? Because as soon as we develop the skill to put blame away or to take it off the table, it makes it safe for both people to expose intimately what they're really feeling and thinking. So that is a really big part of what I'm going to be teaching you to work with on the program. Owning the shadows, voicing for the void, owning and naming the parts, the archetypes, asking for what you desire. Maybe you desire for your child to wash up after dinner without being asked. But probably what's happening, or what quite likely what's happening, is either you might end up just doing it yourself because they don't do it, or you might end up snapping at them and saying, you never do this, I've told you, I've told you. But to actually say to the child, I really desire for you to do the dishes for me on a Tuesday and a Wednesday after football or whatever it is, that would make me feel so supported. That would make me feel so happy. And if you feel able to do that, especially without me asking first, that would feel so good to me. Or to your partner, you know, it could be to anyone. When we express what we desire rather than what the other person is doing wrong all the time, or suppressing what they're doing wrong and then feeling resentful, and then that coming out very, very sideways in the way we talk to them, again, it's a complete and utter game changer. Articulating boundaries, what you're okay with and what you're not okay with in relationships. We're going to cover that. We're going to cover my love acronym LOVE. This is an acronym that I've come up with myself as far as like how to teach conscious communication, looking at what the L stands for: love, language, the language that we choose, how we create space, let it breathe. So I'll go more into detail on the program about what each of those letters stand for and how you can really use that acronym of LOVE to guide yourself through conscious communication. We're going to also look at when we desire something from somebody. Let's say, for example, if it's a new relationship and we want to explore what each person desires from that relationship, I'm going to teach you how to use a framework which is called fears, desires, boundaries, requests. In other words, what am I afraid of going into this dynamic? Am I scared that you won't like my child if I'm a single parent and I'm about to start a new relationship with somebody? Am I scared that you won't like my house? Am I scared that, when you get to know how emotional I am, you won't like that? Like, what is the thing that you're afraid of, and how do we name that? What do we desire from this relationship? And that can change, that can evolve, that can shift over time. But right now, what do we desire? We get to have fun with this conscious communication. Boundaries. Is there anything that I'm not available for right now? Is it that you're not available for a full relationship, but that you'd like to explore some intimacy with somebody? Is it that you really want to have an active friendship with somebody, but because you have a really busy life, you might only be able to meet up with them in person once a month? Like, it's expressing what you are and what you aren't available for. That is super helpful for people, to help them to feel safe and to help them to feel clear. Requests. What would you like of somebody? Would you like your partner to give you a massage? But is your boundary that you don't want that to lead to more intimacy, that the massage would be sufficient for you tonight? Do you have a request for, like, one of my friends who I dance 5 rhythms with, I said to him a few weeks ago, how I love having my feet held. And I said, if at any point during the night you feel inspired to come over and hold my feet, I would fucking love that. And if you don't naturally feel the desire to do that, that's completely okay as well. And at some point he came over and he held my feet, and it was amazing. And he voice noted me the next day and said, I fucking love how clear you were about what you desired. I loved how specific you were about what you wanted. I was able to meet you there because I knew exactly what you wanted. Ladies and gentlemen, if anyone's listening to this later outside of this group, it's such a game changer to just express what you want. And to express your boundaries within what you want helps us to drop into safety. Like, now that I've explained that X is off the table, now that I've explained that I'm not available for this, like, I don't know, let's say it's somebody who you want to do some kind of coaching work with, and they might say, I'm available to, do occasional workshops together. I'm just not available right now to commit to opening a brand together or starting our own company together, It's clarity for everyone, isn't it? It's like, oh, okay, this is what she's available for. This is what she isn't available for. So this is the kind of thing that we're going to be covering on the program. Let me see if there's anything important. Yeah, we're going to be looking at how to give someone a clear and clean sorry. You know how bad we are at that most of the time, or unskilled or clumsy? Again, it wasn't modeled to us, most likely. But our ability to just sit in a space with someone and hear what they have to say, and if it feels natural to offer a sorry, if we've activated someone else in some way, not sorry but, not sorry and, not sorry followed with any justifications or deflections or defending ourselves, but just literally like, I'm so sorry. Like, really just sitting with them in that sorry. It's magic. You will literally see, if you can sit in the sorry with someone and breathe together for about 8 seconds, it's gone. The trigger is gone. Because it's been seen, it's been witnessed, it's been held. Boom. But a lot of the time, we dodge our willingness to sit in the trigger with the other person and to just hold space for it and to offer that clean sorry. Because our ego doesn't want to have hurt anyone. Our ego doesn't want to be wrong in any way. So to be able to offer that clean sorry, we have to come back into the heart and just remember how it feels to feel how the other person is feeling right now. Even if you haven't felt the way they feel in this context, at some point you felt misunderstood. At some point you felt unvalued, or whatever it is. And if you can sit with them in that feeling and offer that clean sorry, it is like the most powerfully healing thing for you and for the other person. We're going to look at, okay, Kimberly, thanks so much for letting me know. Yeah. We're going to look at how to open these challenging conversations. That's another really key area that we're going to cover on the program. It's really challenging for most of us to know how to open the conversation, to know how to say to the other person, something's come up for me. I'd really love to share it. I don't know when would be a good time for you, but let me know if you're open to hear it. Like, rather than just launching a grenade on someone when we're ready to release it, right? It's that negotiation piece of like, when would be a good time? Is now good for you? You know, and it's like all the time what we're going to be looking at on the conscious communication program is how to do it in a way that does not cause more activations, because what we want to do is make a safe space for ourselves and for the other person to share, so that conscious communication becomes more and more natural to us, and we see it being practiced in households, in families, in the workplace, right? That is my strongest desire, is to see this, you know, to model it as best I can based on all the years of work that I've put into really discovering the techniques that work for me around conscious communication and sharing them with others. It's the ripple effect that excites me, that something that you might discover through listening to my transmissions, you might then take that into your home, take that into your family, take that into your relationship, take that into your workplace. And suddenly it's a game changer for everybody. Only 2 days ago at work, a colleague of mine was like so upset because of an interaction that she'd had with somebody else in the workplace, where she was adamant that she'd expressed herself calmly, she'd made a reasonable request, she'd pointed out all of the logical reasons why her request made sense. And the person to whom she made the request was really aggressive back with her, and she couldn't understand it. And she was suffering so much because she couldn't understand it from the logical perspective she was looking at it through. Does that make sense? But when I was able to highlight to her which archetype in her had met which archetype in him, which then caused the collision, right? It was her perfectionist that had come into direct collision with his pleaser. And he wasn't able to please her in that moment. So he did what most men do and resorted to aggression. Because men, even more so than women, have been conditioned out of being allowed to feel any negative emotions except anger, right? Little boys were not allowed to be sad. They were not allowed to be scared. They were not allowed to be fearful, jealous, emotional, sensitive. Maybe the next generation that's shifting a bit, but certainly the men in our lives were not brought up to be encouraged to be allowed to share how they were really feeling. So my coach Melanie, her partner Kevin, who's an incredibly conscious man, doing amazing work with men's groups. You know, he moved me so much in one of the programs that I did where they talked about their relationship with each other. When he talked about how, as a child, as a little boy, all emotions, or all negative emotions, but even positive, you know, even high vibe emotions like excitement. He said, as a boy growing up in like rural Canada, you know, in an agricultural kind of farming community, even excitement and extreme happiness was not manly. You know, it was like you do the physical labor and you can be angry about something, but you can't be sad. And so very sadly, a lot of our men, if we bring our emotional stuff to them, will either shut down or become angry, right? And that's exactly what was playing out between my colleague and this other person. And when I was able to bring light for her on which aspect of her had met with which aspect of him, and how those archetypes, those parts had been created in childhood and they were just coming into collision now, it helped her to suffer less, because she was no longer trying to work it out from a logical headspace, because it's not logical, it's emotional. And when we know what we're dealing with and we know which archetype in ourselves is butting against which archetype in the other person, it's a game changer. Because when we can see which part is being activated, we can voice for the part. So I'm going to teach you on the program how to voice for the parts so that the other person knows who and which part of you, which aspect of you is being activated in this moment. Because for sure it's not the goddess, elevated, evolved adult self. It's these younger parts that weave through our relationships and cause quite a lot of damage, right? When they're not owned and they're not named and they're not understood, they all go under the radar, and they just result in snippiness and coldness and avoidance. So I want to teach you what I know to help all of us have this powerful healing movement around how to voice, how to speak our truth, how to own your truth. How to speak my truth on social media is something that I've been working through for the last 2 years, especially since the pandemic. And that's something I want to share with you as well. You know, to what extent are you ready to voice your truth in a wider sense? This plays out in intimate relationships and it plays out in a more public way. Our ability to embody congruence. Do I stand for the same things in the privacy of my own relationships that I stand for in a more public forum, for those of you who have Facebook groups or for those of you who are leaders in some way? Are you giving one person one version of events and a different person a different version of events based on what they want to hear, from the perspective of trying to preserve the best possible alignment with each person? Or are you able to drop into the anchor of alignment within yourself, no matter who you're talking to? I want to help you to bring conversations that are asking to be voiced directly to the person or the people that you need to have those conversations with, rather than voicing them to other people and dodging them with the person who you can actually have the healing movement with. Complaining about relationships we have with people to other people is the equivalent of a dopamine hit. In the sense that in that moment you might feel better. In that moment the other person might say, oh yeah, you're right, that was out of order. Yeah, she is a twat, you know. So we get validation from someone else affirming that we're right, but that's a short-lived dopamine hit, and then before we know it, we're moaning about them to the next person because we need another person to validate that we're right and the other person is wrong. But that is not conscious communication. So if that is your pattern now, just notice it with compassion and start to feel into the difference between a dopamine hit of a quick bitch and a serotonin flow, a flow of serotonin, a flow of feel-good hormones, which are available to you when you practice that conscious communication with the person. It really, really will change your dynamics beyond recognition. You will become a safe person for people. You will become a calibration portal for congruence and transparency and authenticity. You will create way more intimacy. You will attract the people in your life that you can have these beautiful, nourishing, deep, loving, heart-centered relationships with. The people who can't do this practice or aren't ready or just it's not for them, they are just naturally falling back now from my inner circle, because for me to feel safe and held in my relationships, I need to know that we can do this from time to time. If we need to do it, we can drop into this deeper truth sharing, or we can make requests of each other, or we can voice for the parts. Yeah. So if you are feeling drawn to this program, it's going to be probably 5 to 6 masterclasses. I can't say specifically, because when I start to deliver a masterclass, I start to channel. And when I start to channel, who knows? God only knows what pearls of wisdom are going to drop through me. You know, I just make myself a portal for this work, and whatever comes through that's meant to come through will come through. So I have many notes and I have many plans as to what I want to cover in those classes. I'm guessing it's going to be 5 to 6 masterclasses, plus guided meditations, plus some key important points to share with you. So if you feel drawn to do the conscious communication program with me, we will begin with the welcome call next Thursday, so a week today, which is the 30th. And then I will drop the first masterclass the following day, so on the 1st of July, which is the Friday, the Saturday, the Sunday, and I'll just drop the masterclasses from there. I will let you know as the time gets closer the times of the masterclasses, so if you can join me live, amazing. But equally, I know that so many of you are busy and you've got kids and you've got jobs and you've got things to do. So all of the masterclasses will be available on replay in a private Facebook group, which I would invite you into once you had decided that you wanted to join the program. So you can watch them anytime and you can re-watch them anytime you need. There are slides to go with each masterclass as well, so you can have those, you can refer back to them. The LOVE acronym, I will do a handout for that as well, so that you've got that as a reference point and a tool whenever you need to go back to it. The cost of the Conscious Communication Program is £333, or you can do 3 payments of £119. And I can also, if some of you are watching this and you think, I really want to do it, but even 119 at the moment is a stretch, then I could potentially set up another payment link, so it would be £59.50 over 6 months. So I'd be happy to do that if any of you are thinking, I really want to do it, and that's the most affordable way for me to do it. If you want to do it and you're happy to pay in full, wonderful, that's really welcomed as well. So I try to make the payment accessible to people in whatever way feels good to you. So starts next Thursday, the 30th of June, delivered via masterclasses in a private Facebook group. You can be with me in the lives if you're able to, and the times will be released closer to the start date. And you can also catch everything on the replay, and we've looked at the pricing. And if you want to do the program, or if you know other people who you think would really vibe with my work, I'm going to post this on my own Facebook page as a YouTube video, and you will be able to share that on your personal Facebook page, or you can tag people in it on my page, or invite people into the Goddess Ascension group who you feel are ready to do this work, who you feel are ready to get these codes around conscious communication and spread this loving conscious communication revolution with me around the world. Because let's face it, it is so needed. And to learn how to do this is a gift You will be such a gift to others in your life when you really get skilled at this, and I'm here to hold space for you as you learn these techniques and as you begin to play with them. That's why I love it if you can be on the lives with me, because then we can play together and you can share with me what's coming up for you. You can share with me what aspects of conscious communication you struggle with. Is it that you struggle to open conversations with your teenage kids when you can feel they're going through something? Is it that you struggle to voice to your partner the things that you actually desire from them for fear that you're going to upset them in some way? If so, I'm going to walk you through how to do that in such a cushioned way that you get to voice your truth and your partner gets to feel affirmed. Like, the two things don't have to be mutually exclusive, right? By practicing using these tools I'm going to share with you, you get to have your needs met more and more and more. And your partner or your friends or your family members get to serve you in a way that feels good to them too, because they're clearer about what you desire. There is so much gold in this. There truly, truly is. So, I think I'm complete. Feel free to send me a PM if you would like to join, or if you have any questions, or if there's any other information I can give you. I've now set up a Stripe account, so I have payment plans and links and all the fancy things that, you know, coaches are supposed to have. Got that now. So I'm excited to try that out. And just thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being curious about this work. That in itself is a huge, huge gift. And just reach out to me if there's any other way I can serve you or anything else that you would like to know. Enjoy this glorious day of sunshine. I think it might possibly be a bit crappy tomorrow. So just really embrace the sun today. And I'm sending you so much love. And I hope that I will see some of you on the program next week. Much love and take care. Bye-bye.